subjects, and it's because they are closer and less than what's
So is this camera just automatically randomly? Quite a device.
Yeah.
Yeah. Still a lot better. Okay. Yes.
Right. Does this mic work? Everybody hear me? Testing. Nothing. Yeah, but you need to talk directly into the microphone. All three. Okay. Caroline, you can kiss the microphone and make it work. Can everybody hear me? Oh, that's much better. Okay, welcome everyone to our community council meeting. Really glad everybody is here. To start, let's, if you'll join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Everyone, please stand. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation. Justice for all. Thank you very much. Welcome the mayor, and we do have the police chief is coming too. He's running a little late. Another event tonight. He'll be here shortly. Just a couple of housekeeping items. We need to be out of here, like everyone out, chairs cleaned up by 8 o'clock. So we want everyone to have a chance to ask their questions. Definitely want to give the mayor and the chief ample time, but we do have a hard stop. So let's just be cognizant of that. As far as format goes, we'll give the mayor an opportunity to make a statement if she wants, and then we're just going to open it up to your questions. So Nick has cards and a microphone. When your name shows up here, oh, Helena has cards as well. I have the mic. When your name shows up here, it'll tell you when your turn is. We're limiting questions to 2 minutes. I don't know who can ask a question longer than 2 minutes, but just to be safe, some of us can be long-winded.
That's 2 minutes for the asking.
2 minutes for the asking part, yes. We're gonna let the mayor know where she is time-wise, if she's like at 5 minutes, but I'm not gonna tell her she has to quit talking, so. I'll leave that to somebody. And then we just ask you to please be kind and polite. when we were planning this, we talked to the mayor and said, do you want us to get questions in advance? And she was pretty firm that she just wants to take your questions and answer them. So we're really glad she's here with us. And be kind and polite to each other. We want to get everybody an opportunity to ask their questions tonight. We're really excited to have Mayor Mendenhall here. A couple of other announcements. We have our community festival on May 17th, which is a week from Saturday. It's going to be on Picture Drive, which is the LDS Church on 12th West. Circles, nice, beautiful, shady area right around there. We'll have kids activities, we'll have retail booths, we'll have food trucks. So please come. We have a bunch of color flyers back there. If you have a church or a club or a group you go to, take some flyers and hand them out for us. Help us get the word out, because our committee has put a lot of time and effort into this, and we know it's going to be a lot of fun. Also send positive thoughts that we don't have torrential rain. We've done it in the rain before, we'll do it again, but it's a lot more fun. So, and then just also for our June meeting, it will not be held here at the library. It will be a barbecue over at Riverside Park, same time, and we'll hold our community council elections. So there's a slide up here, but if you're interested in running for a seat on the council, please email us with a picture if you want, why you're interested, a little biography information. We'll post that on the website so the community can kind of get to know you, and then we'll vote on the night. So, well, yeah, there are seats up here and scattered, and I'll have to sit close to each other. So, turn the time over to Mary. Thank you.
Can I stay here? Okay, you can hear me okay? Okay, let me know in the back if it goes out, all right? I don't like being fixated here in this.
You can carry it.
Can I take it out?
Yeah.
Actually, I might hit
Okay.
myself in the face. I really can't take it out. All right, we'll just go like this. Thanks all for coming out. There are a lot of seats up front. And I don't bite or hit or anything. Somebody else, Corky does, but there's seats away from me. So come on up if you want to sit. I want to thank Safi and the Day Riverside crew. Where'd you go, Safi? Safi's our Day Riverside manager. He's amazing, an amazing Salt Laker who also works for the city, and I just appreciate you making space for Rose Park Community Council. Thanks also to some of you who I met with as Councilmember Petro over the last month in this room. We've had, I think, 4 meetings with small groups of residents, and it's really valuable for me. And I know I can say that for the chief of police, even though he's not here. Okay, residents, there are seats up front. Come on. I don't blame city people. Andrew, chief's on his way right now. He's at Sorensen at another community meeting, so he's gonna get here really fast. I want to give you while we wait for chief, because I'm sure a lot of the questions we will probably both want to respond to. I'm gonna give you a little brief on the budget that I handed over to the city council last night. For the first Tuesday of every May, the mayor is obliged by law to hand over the recommended budget to the city council. And then they have about 6 weeks till the middle of June to do whatever they want to that budget and then ratify the budget for the following year. And the budget that I handed over last night is a nearly entirely flat budget. It is about $512 million over our general fund. That doesn't include the airport or public utilities. Those are enterprise funds. And it's a 6.7 increase over last year's budget. Almost the entirety of that increase is inflationary. It's the cost of our doing business. It's also the cost of maintaining an increasing amount of infrastructure, which is a good thing in a lot of ways, but then we have to take care of it. It includes a cost of living increase for our amazing employees who are not represented by unions. You might recall Salt Lake City is the only municipality in the state that does collective bargaining. even though we're now going to be prohibited from doing so. But we bargained with AFSCME, police union and fire union, and we were able to renew our memorandum of understanding, renegotiate it with the police because it was going to expire this year. So that goes for another 3 years. Right now, we're still operating through our unions. Their wages are determined through our negotiations every time those contracts come up. I apologize, I lost my voice and it just came back yesterday, so I'm a little hoarse still. So for the non-represented employees, so people who aren't part of those 3 unions, we propose a 4% cost of living increase, recognizing that everybody's feeling inflation. Our employees and their families are too. And it's important that Salt Lake City remain competitive in the marketplace. And that's kind of consistent actually in percentage with that, the cost of living increase we've given over the last several years. Typically, you would see new full-time positions proposed in a recommended budget, sometimes several dozen new positions. This year, there are only 5 new positions. And the focus of this budget for me, for anything that was beyond the baseline and maintaining what we have, is squarely on public safety. It is primarily focused right here on the west side. So the 5 new positions that we recommended are 3 of them are for expanding our rapid intervention team. That's the team in Salt Lake City that has the trucks, shovels, equipment, and the engagement to go out and clean up and engage with people who are living on the streets and clean up things that are left behind. We want more rapid engagement along the North Temple and Jordan River corridor and into the neighborhoods and parks. So this rapid intervention team with 3 additional new people will be focused on the west side, primarily North Temple, JRT, associated neighborhoods and parks. The other 2 people I'm really excited about because we've only had folks who do this work so far in the city's entire history in downtown and in Sugar House. And these are public right-of-way workers. They maintain, and it's not so much about planting flowers, but it's about having city installed garbage cans that are full-time taken care of by these employees, making sure the sidewalks are power washed and clean, making sure that the lights are functioning, maintaining the right-of-way. And this is the first time we've expanded outside of downtown. Sugar House is 2 new full-time employees year-round on North Temple to take care of North Temple. The budget also includes new street lighting along North Temple, and for the first time, really expanded street lighting along the Jordan River Trail. These are permanent infrastructure investments. And then there's about $500,000, I think it's $550,000 into real crime public safety monitoring. So it's technology like expanding the drones. I don't know if you've seen in the news lately, there's been some really great coverage of operations our police have done utilizing drones on the trail to get up there and really see what's happening, see how many people are there before we send officers in. So we want to expand some of that, and also expanding cameras along the trail and into some of the parks, not only on the west side, but including JRT and some of the associated parks. We are not adding police officers at this point. I'm not close to that. But as you probably know, we've been understaffed, like about every police department in the nation since 2020. And I'm happy to report that we could be entirely staffed and full this year. This is a really big deal. I think we actually have less of a gap in our staffing than most of the police departments in the state of Utah when you look at percentages. So we're doing really well. We're rebuilding the department. Crime is down 5% citywide year over year. It's down 16% if you look at the 3-year average. But I also know that it's up in a lot of parts along in the west side, but especially along the LRT and North Temple. And it's shifting as our police department and our first responders concentrate on an area, it pops up in another area. Chief Wright and his team are using this heat map to watch where the population's fluctuating to. And now I'm getting off topic. I'm going to come back to the public safety strategy. But to tie up the budget, relatively flat. West side focus on public safety, really trying to bring in permanent investments like street lighting, full-time employees, both on the maintenance of the public right of way and on the cleanup side of things. Do you have any questions from me related to the budget? Yes, please. Tell me your name again.
Jerry.
Hi, Jerry. Good to see you.
On the, I just got a notice. Crash pickup, garbage cans, but that price is gonna increase.
Yes.
What was that? Well, I know, shut up.
I'll reiterate for
Yeah,
online.
So anyway, I was just wondering when that process was going through the steps, were you able to put eyes on that before it went out to the people, I guess?
Yeah.
I mean, did you think it was reasonable or, I mean, it's
Good
kind of
question.
high. I don't know exactly the line items that went into what's amounting to the total increase, but, and I do understand that, like you were saying earlier, that inflation kicks in. So it's understandable to see that, but just wondering.
Yeah. So Jerry's asking about the proposed increase from waste and recycling for basically your garbage pickup. For the average can size, because remember, you can have really big garbage cans, or you can save money and have smaller garbage cans. Recycling, we want you to recycle, so we don't change the price there. We just give you a big can for the one price. It's gonna be about $3 a month different per household. This has been a long time planning, and we've seen some similar increases in the past. In a nutshell, the sustainability division was created a long time ago, decades ago, and it had a windfall of cash from the landfill. And it's jointly owned and it's jointly owned between the city and the county, operated by the county, but the city had about, I think it was $10 million at the time, that the mayor back then said, we're gonna create a sustainability department. And for a long time, they were self-sustaining. They lived off sort of this fund. Well, the fund was never going to last forever, and we've seen it coming to an end over the last few years. And waste and recycling is within sustainability. And in order to get that department to be functional, they've had to, in addition to the costs of tipping and employing, tipping as in we tip the garbage into the landfill, we have to pay every time we make a deposit there. And then keeping people who want to do those jobs employed. We've seen these cost increases coming for a while. So it is about $3 for the average household based on can size. Yes. How you doing? Hi, Joe. Yeah, water rate is Joe's question. Another. That me?
Tech issues, I think it's here.
Okay. It's us. So Joe, great question about water rates also increasing. Average $10 a month per average use household. These are for lower use, regular households, not for high water users. They'll see even more of an increase. This is also planned, and both of these questions are great, and the city council, when they schedule the hearing for sustainability, waste recycling, and public utilities, you'll see some charts that we've been seeing for at least 4 years, probably more like 7 years on the public utility side. We have been building incremental rate increases in for a couple of reasons. Salt Lake, even though we've grown by more than 20,000 residents in the last couple decades, we're using 32% less water as a city, which kudos to all of you. You're doing a great job conserving. The hard part is we still have obligations through the federal government about what can be in the water and what can't be in the water that flows through your faucets to make sure it's clean. So we still have to maintain our old infrastructure, and we're building a brand new water treatment facility up here in District 1. It's the biggest public project in the state's history. And so we're asking you to use less water. You're doing it. You're paying us less than we had anticipated 10 years ago, and we're paying for these bonds. So these are also scheduled rate increases. Again, it's about $10 a month per household. I know that that's a lot. So public utilities also has some conservation mechanisms and they can consult with you as individual homeowners or renters if you're paying for your utility. Everything from rain barrels to a hybrid grass seed blend that public utilities developed with Utah State University that uses about 30% less water than bluegrass. So reach out to public utilities, and whether it's, if you're on a fixed income, there's also some rate reduction programs. That's a limited fund, and when it runs out every year, but reach out to us. Any other budget questions?
There was just a, oh, you just say that it's a good idea to reach out because a lot of people are, those rates are not great, but conservation efforts are not still more. It's whether we grow and ignore them, drive around. So maybe you just got to get out, but people can't call and get
Thanks for promoting talking to the city. We want you to call us. Okay, go ahead.
It is budget. The lighting along the Jordan River Trail, how much lighting is in the budget? So along the Jordan River Trail, but it's pretty, like which sections
You
will get new lighting, more lighting?
There, I put the money in to the budget, and then when we finalized the budget, we asked the street lighting division of public utilities to map out exactly where they will add these lights. I haven't seen the map yet, but I know when the city council reviews this part of the budget, it will be public. So I hate to say, I can't tell you exactly yet, but it will be published. And actually, we would love it if Rose Park Community Council could share those materials when they come up. Yeah. Any other budget related questions? Yes. Hi, Margaret.
Okay, hi. Just curiosity. So I'm in the budget thing talks, but I'm just curious, when you give the Parks Department a certain amount of money, do they determine where that money goes? Or is it already kind of written out where you want certain money to go specifically? You want benches in parks? So do they make that decision, or does the city council make the decision when these to be added or changed in the parks?
That's a great question. Margaret's question is if when we give money, and I want to recognize Kim Shelley, the director of public lands, is with us tonight. Another awesome Salt Laker who works for the city. When we give public lands money, does it mean this is for benches or could it be for trees? Is that kind of your question?
Yes.
There are buckets, but they're not absolutely narrowed necessarily to whether it's a chair or a bench or, a picnic table, if catch my drift. So there's typically a parks plan, even if it's a trail, there's a trails plan. And we build that with you. If it's, wherever it is in the community, we build it with the community. And we identify what it is that is wanted and what will be used, and then what we can maintain. And then we typically fund those projects as a bucket. So I can't tell you that it needs 20 more benches.
No, I understand, but it's kind of like. okay,
There's some
this
flexibility.
department that one block, you know what I mean?
It's quite itemized. And you, if you have trouble sleeping, can pile through the 400 pages of our budget tonight. It is available to you online. So you can see what public lands is asking in specific. Good question. Any other budget questions for me? Yes.
How much money are you spending, the city spending on the whole? Clean up everything.
Tens of millions, probably.
Well, you don't have an actual number?
We do. We actually. Did you say what is the number? I don't know off the top of my head at this moment, but I can tell you that one thing that we've started is a different way of tracking our budget expenditures, even if it means an employee doing a different job, like cleaning up rather than mowing. So we're able to look at the buckets of activities and capital investments. So for the first time in the city's history, we actually have a more clear picture, and I can get back to you And Andrew Johnston, I don't know if you have a round number. Andrew's our senior advisor on homelessness policy. If you want to include PD in there, I know it goes up. How about excluded and then PD on top?
So total is majority of police and cleanups. So that's different problems cleaning, that's city. It's got 45 million or so the last time, last year. Now, that includes a lot of police time. So every time an officer goes out to a call that's homeless related, we quantify the cost for that officer per hour to do that. A lot of it is that. Some of it is state reimbursed to do squads around the resource centers. That's a fixed cost. We know what that is every year. And then the cleaning is also some subcontracted out to them services and others. We don't run our own services. We generally contract that out to other nonprofits to run their services. The state has contracts to run the shelters. County has contracts to run health services, those kind of things. So we partner with all those folks.
So it's up about 2 million from last year.
And it's growing. We end up doing on a flat budget year like this, relatively flat budget year. We don't give departments the overtime dollars that they expect to need across the year. I would rather have the departments come to us and say, it's the end of, hey chief, thanks for
Sorry, we're late.
coming here. Okay. We'd rather have the money in the bank, especially with economic uncertainty, and use budget amendments to approve overtime once it's used. Rather than just putting the money out there and having to do a property tax increase because we think we're gonna need it. So we expect that number to rise. Chief,
Second mic right here. Okay.
any other budget questions before Chief turns in? Go ahead.
I guess I've got a question. You mentioned that we're not increasing any FTEs in the police department, right? We've got no officers that you're trying to add to the force.
Well, we want to, but we need to get full before we start setting aside money for positions that we know we won't be able to bring on in that fiscal year. That makes sense?
How many vacancies do we have currently?
With 44 vacancies, we can overfill to 60. So number one, well, there's a lot of priorities, but one of the number one priorities is getting fully staffed. And we're working on that. We have 36 slated for May class. We're on track for 36. It could come out with 2 less, but that's what we're at now. And we're already recruiting for September. And so then we're going to work on retention.
And we're open to laterals anytime. Laterals are police officers who are working in another police department or some other area of law enforcement and don't have to go through the 6 months of training. Chief, you want to introduce
Get a
yourself?
bonus. Yeah, so sure.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm late. I was
We're
over the Swords at Center. The meeting went a little long. We had an individual with some mental health challenges that was there too, so it was a little bit getting up there. So I apologize, but my name is Brian Redd. I'm the new police chief. I've been here about 2 months. Just a little background on me. I came from the Department of Corrections. I served there for Governor Cox for 2 years as the executive director. Prior to that, I was in the private sector, working with a financial services firm. And then before that, I did 20 years in the Department of Public Safety before I retired as a state trooper. So that's my history. I'm really glad to be here. I'm thankful that the mayor gave me the opportunity to come and work here in Salt Lake City. Lots of challenges, an amazing place to police though, and opportunities to make improvements to the community and support the community. So I'm excited to be here and look forward to getting to know all of you. Is that it? Is there anything else I should cover?
That's up to you. All right, right there. Wait, let's go. I know you've got a system. Kent Mayberry.
Yep, right here.
Kent, let's see if the mic works for you.
I
So,
won't need the mic. You
well,
can
there's
hear
some
me.
online folks who want to.
That's fine. Yeah.
It's really working.
It's really good.
I get everybody. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Anyway, I'm a longtime resident of the West Side. I've been here 55 years.
Yeah.
And I'm solely disappointed in the mayor's office and what you have not did for the West Side.
Okay.
The Jordan River Parkway, for the past 3 years that I can count, has been a total wreck. It is not just Everybody says it's the homeless people. On the Jordan River Parkway from Rose Park Library to North Temple, I would say probably over 3/4 of those people aren't homeless, they're drug addicts. And we had a resident that lived on the Jordan River Parkway right behind Backman Elementary for 2 years dealing drugs. I called the city numerous times and got no response. My question is, now during your second term, I feel like Mayor Mendenhall does not care about the west side. I have called and set up meetings. I don't have my glass, I'll have.
1 minute.
That's fine. I've called to set up meetings with you, and every time I've called Joshua Boyle or send in a note to the mayor's office, they say the mayor doesn't have time for you. And I am deeply disappointed because why I can't meet with you, because you don't have time, so I can voice my concerns about the Jordan River Parkway on all the activity that goes on there. You get down Redwood Road, it is an utter disaster. I know you're working on it, but why has it taken this long? It's all. It's all.
Can't hear me in the back. You got muted. Okay, thank you. Thanks for working that. Kent, I'm glad we're talking now. I want to start with the end. I hold meeting with the mayor they're 10-minute meetings that residents can set up, and I hold those throughout the year. And I'd be happy to do that with you. And I'm glad we're talking now.
I
Hang
have
on.
tried to set them up and I can get no response.
Well, I've met with lots of people in this room, so I'm gonna follow up on why Kent Mayberry's emails haven't been responded to or phone calls. Because you're a rebel. I've never met a rebel, Kent.
You have now.
Hang on, I hear you. Let me respond, okay?
Off the west side.
I hear you, and you are justified in being concerned about the west side.
If the
And you
Jordan-
are right that the Jordan River Trail has gotten worse.
If the
Right,
Jordan River
hang on,
Parkway-
Kent, it's my turn now. It's getting better at the moment, but I'm not comfortable and it's not good enough yet. I'm not comfortable because we have to hold it. I need you to know that I care deeply about the west side. And since the beginning of my time as your mayor in 2020, I prioritized the west side. And I think that if you added up the money over the last 6 years, there's not a single other administration that spent more money investing in the west side and fixing things that the city sat on its ass with for decades on the west side than this administration. I want to say, I don't blame you for feeling the way you do, because the deficit that we are working out of an absolutely historic and systemic lack of investment in the west side is so deep that for all the work that our team is trying to do, it's still not enough. So I don't blame you for being upset, but I do take issue with feeling like I don't care.
Well, and I'm good with that.
I want to talk about, I think that you're right also, that right now, and I think I know Chief Red agrees with this, that the activity of the population that's along North Temple and Jordan River Trail, we need to speak about distinctly in many of these circumstances from the homeless population. And since, you also know it fluctuates. We had Operation Rio Grande years ago that moved people onto North Temple and also into the ballpark area and State Street in a big way. And we've also been doing downtown operations. And you saw a letter from the governor to us, talking about the downtown, the state pressure, honestly, not focused on the west side. They want to see the downtown cleaned up. So when we put the public safety plan together in middle January, we focused on the downtown Jordan River Trail, North Temple area, not just strictly the roads and the trail and the ballpark area. I brought this new chief in shortly thereafter. And I'm not going to get into all the reasons about why, but we needed a more dynamic approach to policing that utilizes the other police services outside of Salt Lake City Police Department, a stronger relationship with the state of Utah, and better trust amongst other agencies that need to be helping here. JRT is complicated. A lot of it's owned by the state of Utah, you know that. The county owns some of it, Dominion owns some of it, Salt Lake City owns portions of it. And legally, we gotta have agreements in place or we can't police some parts of it.
I'd just like to leave it with this now. If the Jordan River Parkway was on the east side, it would have been taken care of a long time.
I know
And
you're
that's the
right,
true fact.
I know you're right.
So we got,
I know it's right, it's true, and it's not fair.
it's not. Why do we have to put up with it?
So the other part of the complication, if we talk about the homeless population, which we've had people living on the river since people have been living in this valley. There's some changes in the demographic, and as pressure and also more beds have opened up, there's 900 winter overflow beds. And most of those are still open, they're gonna be open through the whole summer. The demographic of who's out there is changing, and there's a chronically homeless, people who say no to shelter repeatedly, and who've been on the street a very long time. And there's also people who've been kicked out of the shelters for their behavior or whatever, and they don't have that option. It's harder population for us to get indoors. Also, very easy to prey upon, and usually a multiplicity of factors like mental health, behavioral health, substance use challenges. So it's not as simple housing. This is where the state comes in. And one big change that I hope you've noticed in the last 6 years is that the governor in the state of Utah is finally saying this is a statewide problem. And for the last 100 years, the state's been saying this is Salt Lake City's problem.
Isn't it like a federal crime to sell and do drugs that close to Backman Elementary?
I'll let him answer that.
Well, that depends on drug dealing, whether they would take it, not necessarily because it's by a school, it would be based more on quantity and criminal history, guns involved. But it's not acceptable whether it's a federal crime or a state crime, and that's why we talked. The mayor said, let's get the remediation going on the trail, let's close it, let's get a bigger presence. That's what we did. We did it. So I want to pull up, can I pull up a chart? I want to always be transparent with data. So I want to show you, this came hot off the press today from our data science and research team. And I want to just show you what's happening so you understand the dynamic that we're up against as a police department and as a city. So, does this come out?
It's supposed to.
Yeah, don't hit myself in the eye. All right, so a week before the Jordan River operation that commenced when the trail was closed, I just want to point out a couple things. So this is the Jordan River Trail. This is North Temple and 800 West. This is downtown. This is Liberty Park. This is the ballpark district. And the yellow and the red are obviously calls for service crimes that are occurring, okay? So you can see a week before the operation, we had a lot of yellow and dark red here. A lot here, a little less in downtown ballpark and Liberty Park. After the first week of the operation, you can compare, maybe I'm in the way, you can compare, we had a lot of yellow drop off here. We still had a persistent spot here on North Temple. This is gonna be your 7-Eleven, right? And it's still a problem. And then you have North Temple and 800 West, which we know is a problem right now. Okay, so this is week 2, but notice what happened. The yellow left here and popped up in the, what is this area? Ballpark, Liberty Park all of a sudden has a yellow now over here on that just 500, it's a 500 East. And what's the road here? Anyway, it doesn't matter, it's in downtown. You can see the yellow starts popping here, right? So our enforcement efforts work, by the way. Like if we put officers in an area, we can decrease the crime. But it goes out here now. And this is the third week of the operation. We still have our persistent hotspot here. You can see that this spot got a little smaller, but you can see it's also kind of spreading a little bit in that area. And you can see also that we started putting some pressure in Liberty Park. We sent officers over to work in Liberty Park, and you can see we pushed it down to Herman Frank's, and we pushed, and then the downtown area, because we're pushing here, pushes it back into downtown here, so it's coming into downtown. So this is the reality that we're facing. A lot of these individuals, I want to make sure you all understand. Some of them are homeless; they don't have places to live. But a lot of them, and I was in what's the park where Richard?
He's still getting used to the city.
Yeah, I'm getting used to the
Give
city
him a
still.
break.
Okay. All right, there's a park,
Richmond Park.
Richmond Park. Sunday, I'm out in Richmond Park, 5 individuals setting up tarps and camps. Okay, we got one with some drug paraphernalia. 4 of the 5 individuals in that camp had places to live. I asked them, one had an apartment, with their mom, one with their dad up at a business on Beck Street. Another one stayed at the Gail Miller Center, and then one was homeless. So when you talk about a crime problem versus a homeless problem, you're absolutely right. You know, we're talking a lot about these drugs today, the meth and the fentanyl. These are not the drugs of yesterday. These synthetics that are coming out from the cartels are deadly. They're a death sentence, actually. It's like being put on death row when you get on these drugs. And if we leave, and so we leave them on the streets with these drugs, they're eventually probably going to not make it. And so the drugs are such a draw that even if we have homes for them to go to, families that want to support their loved ones, maybe some of you in the room are facing those challenges, and I'm sorry if you are. We're going to have to figure out, there's an author, you should read the book, The Least of Us. It's an amazing book. The author was in town today, and he said, these drugs today are no match for your brain. And that's what we're faced with. So there's going to be an enforcement component, but it's out of compassion. It's out of love for these individuals who are out here suffering on the streets. But they're not going to choose, most of them, many of them are not going to choose to come off the streets, even if there are services, there are resources. So we've got to, this isn't a law enforcement fix. It's not a social services fix. We got to come together as communities, help these people. When we get them into the jail, we need to treat them. We get them into a treatment provider, we need to stay with them. They need community. So this is what we're up against. And a lot of the crime related. Sorry, Mayor, I know you want to jump.
Can't we?
Go. Go for it. Go for it.
I want to say that I know we got a list of names and we've got a lot of questions we want to get to, but what he's saying is so important. I don't know if you heard a couple of years ago when we started talking about Miami-Dade County and that they have a model, they have an approach to this particular population, which honestly is a tiny fraction of the total population that experiences homelessness. The vast majority of people, upwards of 82%, who enter a homeless resource center, resolve their experience of homelessness within 90 days. We don't see those people. So I want you to know that the system of the homeless resource centers works really well. But there's this smaller part of the population that gets even smaller when we look at these hotspot areas with way more complex issues than simply rehousing can take care of. Miami-Dade County has found an approach to cracking that. And so when Chief says, it's not just a social services, it's not just a law enforcement, it's got to be everything together. He's not just being theoretical. And that's the shift, Kurt, that I was talking about. The state is finally at the table. And they are directing DHHS, Department of Health and Human Services, law enforcement to get into the game of figuring out how we approach these folks and making sure that the jail has the beds set aside, that the services can be in the jail, that the judge can hear the trial instead of that person getting released on pretrial and back out on the street before our officers are done with their shift. We're arresting, you can look at the arrest records, we're arresting
40% probably.
Very
or
high
more
rate.
in all of Salt Lake Valley, Salt Lake PD, our officers are working hard. They're arresting at a higher rate than any other police department.
But
They
the
need some
system
help.
isn't
They
quite
need
there
some
yet.
help from the other parts of the system.
So Chief Red has been able to get 50 beds set aside at the Salt Lake County Jail, which we, not just Salt Lake City, but with the DA's office, with Chief Dumont at Salt Lake County Jail, and we're trying to work with the courts, are basically saying, who are the 50 most impactful people who are typically misdemeanors, they're not felons, misdemeanor crimes, not getting jail time, getting out on pretrial, definitely not having the chance to sober up or have mental health treatment so they can make more rational decisions. And we need to be able to hold them long enough that they can get the treatment they need to make some decisions or get sober or both. And so that's the approach that we're talking about. And it's taken years, at least 3 years for us to get all those partners at the table. But the public safety plan is that strategy at a high level Chief Red's doing an amazing job of bringing those partners and holding them accountable with us. I want you to know our officers are working their butts
I know
off,
they are.
but
I
the
thank you all
system's
the
gotta
time.
work with us.
So I gotta tell you just one last point on the crime statistics, so. Sorry, and I guess maybe we need to move on.
No, you go ahead, but
Okay.
we'll go
I'll
to
be-
Jason Wessel next.
I'll be really fast. So the good news is the first 4 months of the year, in this district, in the Pioneer District, crime is generally down. So that doesn't mean all crime's down, but it means it's down. We're having a couple areas in the city right now, residential burglaries, car thefts, aggravated assaults. Aggravated assaults are across the United States, 1.3%. They're up at a higher rate here in Salt Lake City right now. But a lot of that activity is transient related. So just be aware, a lot of those things. Now we have some other, those are the crimes that are up this year, and they're all transient related to these hotspots. So this is where we have to focus. But I want to just give hats off to Commander Clough, who's your division commander in this area, who's been working very, very hard with his team to make this a safer part of our city. So, thanks.
Jason.
All right, there's a lot of people waiting, so I'll just kind of read. I think it's something that I could like answer quickly. What can we do to get the West Side libraries open to hours that we had before the pandemic? And is there any kind of rough timeline on reopening the trail?
I'll take the library question to tell you, I really don't know. Noah Basket, our library director, didn't bring that to us as a ask in this budget, so I don't know what the cost would be, and I don't know what the staffing increase would have to be. But I'm happy to ask that question of Noah, and Weston, if you could help me take a note on that, we'll get back to the council, or community council. Chief, do you want to, I know we don't have a date on JRT opening, we have a quality of life that we want to get to maintaining, but public lands, you might have a timeline on the trail work that you're doing. Kim, do you want to speak to that?
So next week we are paving, the brand new trail. We're really excited about that. This project has been long in the making, but we're moving quickly on that. So, I don't have a final date for when we'll have to kind of get it ready to open for users, but we're getting close to making good progress. Yeah, celebration. 100%.
That good, Jason? Okay. Marilyn? Where's Marilyn?
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank you both for coming. I realize your time is important and you have a lot of night meetings and everything else going on. I, like Kent, have been born and raised in Rose Park. I've lived here my whole life. And I'm saddened that residents can't go to the grocery store. They can't go to the gas station. They can't go to the credit union. They can't go get pizza without being confronted with the homeless. And I realize that the police have done a great job over the last couple of weeks, but wondering what's it going to take to get the bike patrol back, so that instead of a patrol officer who sees something happening in the park or on the trail, by the time they get there, they have dispersed everywhere. And the fact that we have kids that want to use that trail, we have adults that want to use that trail, and in as much as things have been done, it's still not where it needs to be. We have crime that has come into our neighborhood, people who are breaking into automobiles, people who are on the take of anything that's available in their yards. I live on Victoria Way now, and I just reported again today to UDOT homeless that are camping on the frontage road. I have to do that every week. It's like, we have people who are camping over by the golf course. We have people who are camping at the credit union by the bank. Somehow, if they can't find a place, they need to go someplace else.
Yeah. Chief, can I start on, and then you can answer right spot? Scary when it hums like that. I agree with everything you said. I'll let Chief answer on the bike squad, but you know, the answer to this is about shelter and housing. And you also know that,
They don't want to go.
well, we have to be compassionately compelling. I mean, we do. It's,
Let's make sure that they're not right back again.
That's it.
that's right. We all agree with that. So I'll give you a little bit of hope that I have. At Miami-Dade 23 years ago, they were in the same place as San Francisco in the homelessness crisis on their streets. They've started this program. And basically what it does is if you're that kind of misdemeanor activities, and chief can rattle them off, but you're living a lifestyle out on the street. They created the capacity for a judge to say, Marilyn, I've seen you 7 times in here. You've not spent more than 30 days in the jail. You're back here again. I also know that you need some, I'm not really. Mental health. You need some. We all need mental health. And that you've been bounced from the shelter and that we've tried to house you, you know, I'm able to see your whole need and your experience in the criminal justice system. I know the impact you're making on the community. I have the records from the police department. And the judge can say, I need to be able to put you away long enough that you can make some different decisions. What I'd rather have you do is say yes to permanent supportive housing with a peer support, permanent. But you will receive your mental health treatment, you'll participate, and you'll receive your substance abuse treatment or whatever those needs are. And we're gonna monitor you. And if you don't, jail is the option. And in 23 years, they haven't had a single person say, I'll take jail. And the crime between San Francisco and Miami-Dade County is oceans apart now. Now it's Miami-Dade, it's Miami Beach. So they put a tax on bars and restaurants in Miami-Dade County that is an ongoing revenue stream. And HUD 23 years ago said, we'll match it. They don't do that anymore. We're in a different landscape of kind of pull yourself up by your bootstraps with our state legislature who doesn't want to create an ongoing revenue stream. But the other reality I want to say to you is that you know this, you all know this as Salt Lakers. Almost every other city in the town in this state, when they have someone in their community who loses their housing, falls into mental health crisis and can't get services, becomes addicted to drugs. I've had those mayors and council people look me in the eye and tell me, we put them in the back of the cop car and we take them to Salt Lake. You know it. You know this is true. Because they don't know what else to do. They don't have services in their community. They haven't built affordable housing intentionally. And the state also hasn't stepped up to make sure that across the state of Utah, wherever your community is, you can get help. That hasn't happened yet until about 3 years ago, and they're starting to invest. It is not sustainable for basically Logan, Ogden, Salt Lake, and St. George, and Midvale, and South Salt Lake, where the resource centers are, to sustain a statewide population in the fastest growing state in the nation who has a housing crisis across the spectrum. You know we're short on housing, not just affordable housing. So how did we get here? To Kurt's question, yeah, it's gotten worse. We're in the fastest growing state in the nation, 18.2%. And we're not growing housing fast enough. And people don't make enough money to get by. So I'm just painting a bigger picture that there is a path forward. And finally, the state, county, and cities are all in agreement about what the path is. We've never had that before. So that's what we were talking about, fixing the system. So the back door of the jail isn't right back out to the trail.
I would just ask that you expedite us as quickly as you can,
Amen.
because we have
I
elderly
do it
who
tomorrow.
are afraid to get gas in their car,
Yeah.
and that's sad.
Chief, you want to just give a date or perspective on life?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we're trying to do with the data I showed you is get that into the hands of our officers so they can move with the problem more quickly. I mean, we do have bike officers and we have squads, and they have been over here and are over here, but they're also in downtown. They're also on Liberty Park. I mean, you know, our community impact division, which was formed under the public safety plan before I got here, is operating. We're going to take a look at if that's being done efficiently, if we can do it better. We're going to look to see if our patrol response times, but I mean, I've committed to the mayor that we're going to be as efficient as possible as a police department, and then we'll bring our needs to her at that time when we can understand what those needs are. There's no one silver bullet that's gonna solve this. I wish there was. If there was, we would see it somewhere in the country. It's a really big problem. The root of it is all the things she said and these drugs.
Peggy?
Sorry, I was ready. I have a question on my card and I can put my last name. So it's Peggy Hayes. My question, so much easier than, the riveting questions from previously, but, I'm in the process of moving from North Star, from All Seasons to, Indiana. So I have been hit with speed bumps like crazy. And I'm just wondering, first of all, if you guys can pay for my mini Cooper, because it's causing that. But I'm noticing, first of all, people are parking right up against them, and I'm not sure that that's legal. Because you either have to go with two wheels in the ditch or swerve off to the right. And nearly sideways. So I'm wondering if there's a distance at which people should be parking away from them. And then my other part of the question is along Indiana, there's so many yellow signs that it's very, very difficult to see the yellow speed bump sign. I see that yellow sign up. So I'm wondering if perhaps we could have like yellow chevrons marking them or yellow triangles, just so I'm not looking at the sign, looking at the ground, trying to stay between the lines and, so speed bumps, lots of fun. Thanks. Well, that might be a better police question. I guess how far away.
John? Where's John? I'm looking for you.
Oh, there you are.
This is John Larson. He's the Director of Transportation for the city.
Good, because I was like, I don't think that's a police question. If I can answer that one.
Yeah, so the Indiana Avenue speed humps are, based on community requests for, that's a street that we get a lot of complaints about speeding on, have historically, and it's, so that was put in response to requests from residents. Those are brand new. Well, okay, yeah, so you can park on next to, on top of a speed hump. But there are some that, it's looking like it's problematic, like, you can talk to us. Those are adjustments that we can make. Based on the feedback you just gave us, I'll ask my team to take a look at the overall signage and striping on Indiana, because you're right there. We do have a lot of crosswalks where we have kind of the flashing yellow signs and things.
And there's like one,
So-
like there's a crosswalk coming and there's another one that's like the crosswalk right
Nice.
here.
There's a lot of
So
signs.
proactive with crosswalk, but
I'll have our team take a look and see if we can reduce the sign clutter out there while still accomplishing what we need to accomplish.
Thanks, Peggy.
thank you.
I love that kind of feedback. Kind of things we think are good and then you gotta live it and we need to hear it. Thank you. Chris?
I have a question about your commissions, your planning, for different areas of the city. Why is so much of our revenue, the money that we're all spending on a day-to-day basis, going to Davis County and to cities in Davis County? They're not staying here in Rose Park or in Salt Lake City. Everything we have around here, well, very little entertainment. Our parks are not up to par with other offerings in other areas. There's restaurants, we have tacos. We have so many Mexican restaurants. You can only be so supportive. We love the, businesses here and we do frequent them, but so much of our money is going to serve other places and stores. We do not have really good quality stores.
Before you switch, Peggy, tell me more about the money going to other counties. Or Chris, I'm sorry, you're Peggy. Chris, tell me, I don't know what you mean about our revenue going to other cities or Davis County.
We are spending
Oh,
our
you're
money.
leaving. I see what you're saying.
Shop
Sorry.
outside of this area. How many are
Totally.
shopping in Davis
Yeah.
County?
Sorry, I misunderstood. I thought you meant city revenue was different.
Oh,
I
no.
get you.
Yeah, I can't find my words anymore.
No,
but-
it was me. It wasn't you.
I mean, our pocket dollars that could be going into city coffers.
Yeah.
Which is a question of investment. We don't have much investment here. We don't see people investing in such a beautiful area like Rosa Park. I mean, this whole area all the way from like the fairgrounds over is just a
Needs
unique. I mean, people are like, wow, you lived in this park, that's cool, you're gonna get that. Well, yeah, we have to drive downtown if we want to get a beer. We have to drive downtown if we want to go to a really nice restaurant to sit outside on the patio or have breakfast. I mean,
Okay, I get you.
I
I'm
love
gonna
Chubby's.
try to
don't get me
respect that
wrong.
Rosemary's next. Thank you, Chris. So for all the planning efforts, whether it's the North Temple project area or right now there's the Northwest Community Plan that's happening. There's the redevelopment agency, which is not a community reinvestment agency, which is part of the city that'll buy up properties and say, we're gonna give you, developer, this land for really cheap or nothing if you build a grocery store like the community needs, or you build a local restaurant or something. For all of those efforts, we have not succeeded. We have not succeeded. And I'm not sure that cities are necessary. I don't know that any city is actually able to say, we want you Smiths to put a Kroger grocery store here. We want a Whole Foods there. But the tools that we have haven't worked. And so recently we just wrapped up a North Temple Economic Development Plan. And you can check it out. It's really good. Probably a lot of you engaged with us on how to do that. It's how to get those kind of businesses that you want to see, including beer, which builds communities, let's be honest. Into the neighborhoods into the areas of the neighborhoods where these kind of businesses can go. Okay, you don't have to drink beer, Chris, but your neighbors want to spend their. Too soon, sorry. So the North Temple Economic Development Plan has some newer strategies, and believe you me, the city is willing to invest to make sure that if that opportunity comes, we've got money in the Community Reinvestment Agency to help make those things happen. I just can't force businesses to make them happen. So we have a small business loan program and also a startup program for businesses that we have helped, like Culture Coffee was one of our big assistance projects. Yeah, we helped fix that building up and gave them loans. There's a lot of small businesses like that the city has helped. But I know that you're in a grocery store desert here, and you're in a lot of different stuff. We want the same thing. The bottom line on the North Temple Economic Development Plan is, until it's safe, that plan's going nowhere. So our job as a community is number one, public safety right now. And I'm not gonna hold back on investing in the community until it's safe. That's why we're making the investments with more people on the city team to take care of spaces, more street lighting. The parks are getting a lot of money, actually along the trail. There's a lot of native plantings and cleanup money that's going into the west side in this budget. But I agree with you. You need more. Yeah, you need more. And like there is investment, it's thousands of units of housing that are mostly 1-bedroom studio. But I gotta give a shout out right across from Power District today. We did the ribbon cutting on Spark project. You'll know that one? Right across the street, next to Nico's, another place to get tacos. Just west of Nico's on North Temple on the north side. Spark is the really big kind of U-shaped apartment building. It's 200 units, family-sized units. Even 3 and 5 bedrooms in there. And Neighborhood House is opening their very first satellite preschool in the building where it's affordable and residents pay what they can afford for their childcare. So Spark is awesome, and that was a big city investment. Rosemary? It was about beer. Okay, Kip?
Hey,
Oh, yeah, hi, Kip.
yeah. Again, I came here for two specific reasons. One was to personally thank you, because I reached out back in November, asked if the trees could be trimmed on my street. And I was actually surprised that within 6 weeks they were trimmed. And they really needed it. The other reason I came, I feel a little selfish because, my street, the issues that are being brought up here are deeper than the potholes on my street, which are terrible. And I'm just wondering, how many times you gotta fill a pothole before you realize it's just time to fix the street? Because I go down the same side of the street every day. And again, I know my street, all I cared about was my street. That is the other issue I had, question.
What's your street, Kip?
Valentine Street. It's terrible.
Okay.
It's terrible. I can't drive on the right side of the street. That being said, hearing everything that I've heard in here today, this drug problem, specifically on the Jordan River Parkway and this motel down here at the end of the road on 10th North and 9th West, has affected my family personally. And yeah, it really is an issue that for the longest time I used to tell people, I'm from Rose Park. Rose Park is like Mayberry on Andy Griffith, because if you go to Rose Park, you know everybody. I grew up and played on Mendenhall Diamond at the Rose Park Country Club that is no longer there, but this drug problem between these two places is a real serious issue. So I agree with what's being said here. That's all. And I'd like to book 10 minutes with you.
Okay.
So-
Kip, thanks for sharing, and I think that you're not alone. These drugs that are not unique to Salt Lake City by any means are tearing at this country and our families and our neighborhoods. So I feel you, man. I know, feel you. I didn't trim the trees, but I'm gonna tell the urban forestry team that they did a great job.
Email to your office.
I'll take the credit, but it wasn't me. I'm glad they came out quick. Did you know, as a plug, if you don't have the My SLC app, why are you even here? You need to have this app. If you're caring about your community council, you need the My SLC app. You can ask for trees to be trimmed. You can even take a picture of the tree. It geolocates. Graffiti removal, people who need assistance, the whole thing, people with weeds out of control. My SLC is one way to do that. And then your street. So we have, I think you probably have heard me talk about this, but every 2 years, we hire this vehicle that drives all over the nation to drive every single city street. And what is so cool about this thing, Mark, where are you at, Mark?
Right.
Hey, Mark's our city engineer. He can talk about it till you fall asleep. I mean, it's really riveting. But so this thing used to just be able to give us like a partial diagnostic of the quality of our streets. What percent? It used to be.
As far as the health of the
Yeah,
roadway.
anyway, this Batmobile thing that would like analyze even subterranean issues on the roadways, drives every mile of our streets, and now the technology is so good that we basically have a complete diagnostic picture of every single city street. It maps it, and you can look it up. And you can see where your section of Valentine Street, how it's rated, which it sounds like it's probably in the red. It's probably a failed street. Which if it's a failed street, we can't come do an overlay. Anybody thinking about 10th North and the diversion with the 6th, 7th North, by the way? Mark and his crew recently decided to do an overlay on 10th North to make it more smooth. It's not gonna save, that's a road that needs a full reconstruction. It's at least gonna make it better while we have the diversion with 6th and 7th under construction. But any of you can look up your street.
If you would Google Salt Lake City pavement condition map, be the first one to populate. It's GIS based. You click on your street, it'll get a score 0 to 100, 100 being like new, 0 being total fill, and there in between.
Salt Lake, for those online, say it again, Salt Lake condition,
Salt Lake City pavement
Salt Lake
condition map.
City pavement condition map. And I want you to know, I live on a failed street too. And my neighbors say, why are you our mayor? You're doing no good for our street. Can't you pull some strings? No, I cannot pull some strings. So I feel you. But anyway, check it out. And then you can see, so we're investing more, a little bit more in this budget on maintenance of streets, but Mark's crews are kicking butt. Okay, you can talk streets with Mark a little more later if you want. Dan. Okay. Yeah, your gift went.
So, okay, thank you. So a comment and a question. So first of all, thank you very much for being here. Thank you for the efforts recently in our neighborhood. I appreciate that. The comment is, additional comment is, you know, a few weeks ago before the Jordan River Trail was closed, I had a family member that stopped by when I was working in my garden. They texted me up when they get home and they said, you know what, I just drove past Riverside Park and I saw a drug deal going on right there. And it just seemed like the city honestly had given up completely on managing what was going on with the drugs and the prostitution in Riverside Park. And that was really discouraging. And it's hard when the reputation of Rose Park is impacted by people who don't live here. And see this when they come visit us. And it's like, how are we supposed to defend that? We say, you know what, the mayor's office does not care about what's going on here because nothing's changed. So that is my comment. The question has to do with the new resource center. And I understand, rumor has it that it's going to go on 22nd West. If that happens, will the transportation for the folks that need to go over there, will they just be dropping off all of the folks from the resource center onto North Temple at that very end stop, so that then they're all congregating again all on North Temple? Or can they be spread out, dropped off throughout the city so that it's not just in one location to attract the drugs and the prostitution again that may thrive with the homeless?
Okay. Dan, thank you. I'm gonna change hats, well, I'll add a hat that I serve on the Utah Homeless Services Board. And, it's the state of Utah that has 25 million, the legislature's given the Office of Homeless Services at the state $25 million to expand shelter to meet the need. 25 million isn't enough. And it's not, and what they're focused on building is not a resource center per se. It is in many ways a pendulum swing from the resource centers back toward a campus, which the state decided to close down. As you remember, 17 or so road home closed officially in 2019 when the resource centers opened. The resource centers opened with about 400 fewer beds than the road home could host on a winter night. We started with a deficit. And then I won't go through the whole saga. You've been through it too. But right now, the state is focused on building one central location. Andrew, where you at? Remind me the name of the place in Austin that is the focus
Haven of Hope.
Haven of Hope is, you can look it up. It's just outside of San Antonio, thank you. And that's what Wayne Niederhauser and the Office of Homeless Services is using as a model campus. We need lower barrier shelter options that are also tiered in their approach. So it's not just a warehouse and everybody's treated the same, no matter what their needs are or their willingness to engage in services. The Haven of Hope takes a different approach. Big difference here, and I need to back up to say that the state is still, they haven't decided on a property that is there is a piece of property on 2200 West that the city owns that is an option, but the state is conducting feasibility on the various properties that they have on their list. And they expect, and Wayne Niederhauser attended a meeting with us and Councilmember Peacher just a couple of weeks ago with 2200 West neighbors and shared this, so I can share it with you on his behalf. They're gonna see what the environmental test results of feasibility studies come back and see basically what costs are associated. None of the properties are perfect, none of them are clean. They're not ready to build with a shovel, so they don't have an answer yet on which one. But to your transportation question, transportation is a big piece of the programmatic costs, which is not something we've seen with the homeless resource centers until we worked with service providers to develop a way to get people places. This is a really different model, and a big part of the difference is the state's gonna own it. And the state's gonna be funding operations, which they don't do with the homeless resource centers. So this is a really different animal in many different ways. We can't really compare it to the HRCs per se, even though it's all under the umbrella of the Office of Homeless Services. Andrew, did I get anything wrong, or you want to add something there?
I don't know if you microphone, but we don't know what it's gonna look like and how it's gonna operate yet. What we do know is right now, what happens is there's various resource centers from South Salt Lake and Salt Lake City and Midvale. And even on North Temple, temporary, the old Motel 6 is a temporary place. Winter and summer. They have an advantage service shuttle, which is about 5 shuttles each day, all day long for about 12 to 16 hours a day. And they run between those facilities specifically. They don't go drop off at, say, public transit or anything like that. They go from facility to facilities. There's not a drop. That's how they've handled the transportation right now. I can't say that's how it's going to happen. That's been the plan right now to avoid what you just talked about.
Thanks, Andrew. I was just reminded, Safi and his team shuts the doors, turns off the lights in like 9 minutes. So can we do rapid fire on these questions, the people who are in the queue? Brittany?
Comment. I am a transplant here in Rose Park, and my husband's family's lived here forever, but I'm scared to take my kids to parks. I have 3 kids, and I want to be able to take them to parks here, and I'm scared, and I can't because I'm fighting. My kids have found needles and glass and other paraphernalia, and I don't want to take them here. And that makes me sad because I love it here. And I just want you to know that. So that's all.
The comment, and thanks, and I'm sorry that you feel that way. The guiding principle for me as a police chief going forward is, if would I take my kids to this area? And if the answer is no, then we have work to do. So.
And Brittany, I want to add.
Can I ask what a citizen's right is if you go to a park and you get assaulted?
You should call the police.
Yeah, but that doesn't help at that in the moment that you're being assaulted.
Are you Brian?
Well, are you asking a question?
I'm asking what is a tax-paying homeowner citizen's right if they misjudge the situation, take their kids to the park, and they get assaulted or they get caught in the crossfire of something going down? What is our right? Is it just flee and call the police, or is there a stand our ground kind of a thing going on?
Well, you can always defend yourself if you're being harmed. It's best if you can leave the situation and call 911. That's the best, but you can also defend yourself if you're being harmed or when your kids are being harmed, but the best solution would be to leave the situation calm.
Brian? Is Brian here?
Right here.
Oh.
Boy, I got a lot more questions than what I came with. I guess my real concern is, I've lived over here on I'm actually out on my foot. I'm from Bear Park area, so. In any event, I live on that I can refer to as, and the police know exactly what I'm talking when I say I live on Drug Alley. That's between, the Northwest Community Center and Cotton Park, with the dog park. And, boy, Chief Reed, buckle up, because spring is here and the flowers are starting to pop. Because it is grown in leaps and bounds. All of a sudden, we lived on that area there. And we have this wonderful, green berm between us and the river anyway. And, during the COVID area, we had probably 12, 14 camps right behind our house. People having sex, people coming up and desiccating right in our back gates and stuff. And in any event, I guess my question is, there's a lot of career addicts out there. And I don't know what the answer is to that, because I've questioned many and asked them, because I've got a real close tie to recovery and whatever. And, you ask them, so what are you gonna do when you get old? And they'll say, well, I'm gonna quit before I go. And that doesn't happen. And I know for a fact, the recovery rate is not that good. Not that good. And especially with the drugs now, they're on the street. But Commander, thank you for the work you're doing. It has improved, but I'm seeing activity right behind my house, because there's one particular spot that I could sit at my kitchen table, look out on the river, I can see people gather, they're on their cell phones. Pretty soon, up comes the bicycle, they're doing exchanges, drugs and money. And as soon as I call, of course, you just don't have time, and that's an interesting point on the bicycle throw, because there was 5 here just in the area, and suddenly they disappeared. I don't know if they were training or.
Well, we're moving around with the problem, so, but I think get with Commander Clough after and maybe explain the area and we'll work on it.
All right.
I mean, look, and yes, people are coming out on the streets, it's a problem. I don't know where they all come from. They're not here in the winter, and then all of a sudden they're all here in the summer, and that's a challenge. They have somewhere to be, then they don't have somewhere to be in the summer. I don't know how that works. We're gonna work on it.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you for coming out, thank you for caring, thank you for talking to us, please keep talking to us.
He says he does.